My fiancé proposed with his ex-wife's engagement ring. I don't even know. Okay, so I 32F am absolutely spiraling. I need to get this off my chest because I'm a mess of emotions right now. My fiancé, Michael 35M, proposed last night, and what should have been the most magical, romantic moment of my life has turned into a complete nightmare. Michael and I have been together for 3 years. We met at a mutual friend's party, and we just clicked. He was charming, funny, and had this easygoing nature that I found incredibly appealing. We started dating soon after, and things progressed quickly. We traveled together, met each other's families, and even started talking about the future. We discussed marriage, kids, buying a house, all the big milestones. I genuinely believed we were on the same page, that we had a solid foundation built on love and respect. Last night, he told me he wanted to take me somewhere special. He wouldn't tell me where, just that I should dress nicely. He drove us to this scenic overlook, a place that held special meaning for us. It was where we'd had one of our first dates. The sun was setting, painting the sky in these breathtaking hues of orange, pink, and purple. It was the perfect setting for a proposal. He got down on one knee, and I felt my heart pounding in my chest. He had this whole speech prepared, a beautiful, heartfelt declaration of his love. He talked about how much I meant to him, how I was his best friend, his confidant, the woman he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. I was already tearing up, picturing our future together, saying yes 1,000 times in my head. Then he pulled out the ring. It was a classic solitaire diamond, set in a delicate white gold band. It was stunning, sparkling in the fading sunlight. He slid it onto my finger, and it fit perfectly, like it was made for me. And then he said those words that shattered everything. It was Sarah's, you know, but I had it cleaned and resized. It's a really good diamond, a real investment, Sarah. His ex-wife. The woman he was married to for 2 years, the woman he told me had cheated on him. The woman who had broken his heart into a million pieces. My world just stopped, the beautiful sunset blurred, the romantic moment disintegrated. I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach, a knot of nausea tightening in my throat. He went on, completely oblivious to my growing horror. She never really appreciated it. I always thought it was a waste. But it's a good ring, and I know you'll take better care of it. I just stared at him, my mouth agape, my mind reeling. I couldn't form a coherent sentence. I felt like I was going to be sick. He seemed genuinely confused by my reaction. What's wrong? You don't like it? I thought you'd be happy. It's a very expensive ring, you know. I finally managed to stammer out. You proposed with your ex-wife's engagement ring? He shrugged, like it was no big deal. Yeah, like I said, it's a good ring. And it saves us money, right? Weddings are expensive, and we are trying to save for that house we want. I took the ring off my finger, my hand shaking, and handed it back to him. No, Michael. I can't wear this. He looked genuinely shocked, bordering on angry. But why? It's just a ring. It doesn't mean anything anymore. She's out of my life. It means everything, Michael. It means you proposed to me with a symbol of your failed marriage. A marriage you shared with someone else. A marriage you had before me. My voice was rising, and tears were streaming down my face. He tried to take my hand, but I pulled away. Come on, don't be like that. It's just a ring. I love you, not her. You're the one I want to marry. This is about us, our future. But you proposed with her ring. It's not about the money, Michael. It's about the symbolism. It's disrespectful. It feels like you are trying to give me her hand-me-downs. Like I am just a replacement. He sighed, like I was being completely unreasonable. You're making a big deal out of nothing. It's just a piece of jewelry. You are being overly emotional, like you always are. That stung. He often dismissed my feelings as emotional, and it always made me feel like I was being unreasonable, like my feelings didn't matter. We argued for what felt like an eternity. I tried to explain how hurtful it was, how it made me feel like I was second best, like I was just a placeholder. He kept dismissing my feelings, saying I was overreacting, being dramatic. He didn't seem to understand the emotional weight of his actions. Eventually, I told him I needed to go home. He drove me back in complete silence, the tension in the car so thick you could cut it with a knife. When I got to my apartment, I slammed the door and collapsed onto my couch, sobbing. I haven't slept a wink. I keep replaying the conversation in my head, trying to understand how he could think this was okay. I love him, I really do. We've had our ups and downs, like any couple, but I thought we were building something real, something lasting. He doesn't talk about his marriage to Sarah much, but I know it was a painful chapter in his life. They were together for 5 years, married for 2, and it ended bitterly. He said she cheated on him, and he was devastated. I was there for him as a friend during that time, offering comfort and support, and we eventually started dating. Now I'm wondering if he's truly over her, if he still holds a torch for her, if he sees me as just a convenient replacement, someone to fill the void she left behind. The ring feels like a symbol of that doubt. I've been thinking about their relationship. He always painted Sarah as this extravagant, materialistic person who didn't appreciate him. He'd say she was always nagging him about money, about the house, about the wedding. And now he's using her ring as a practical solution. It feels like he's still letting her dictate his decisions, even after she's gone. This whole situation has brought up a lot of insecurities I didn't even know I had. I'm wondering if I'm not good enough, if I'm not special enough, if he's comparing me to her, and if I'm coming up short. I haven't told anyone about this yet. My friends and family are so excited about the engagement, and I don't want to ruin their excitement, but I can't pretend everything is okay. I feel like I am suffocating with this secret, like I am carrying a weight that is crushing me. I keep thinking about the ring. It's not just a piece of jewelry, it's a symbol of their relationship, their marriage, their life together. It's a reminder of a past I can't erase, a past I can't compete with. I'm also worried about the future. If he can't understand how hurtful this is, what else will he dismiss? What other boundaries will he cross? What other emotional needs will he ignore? I'm scared that this is a sign of a deeper problem, a lack of empathy or respect. I'm scared that I'm setting myself up for a lifetime of feeling second best. I've been going over our relationship in my head, trying to find other red flags, other instances where he's dismissed my feelings or prioritized practicality over emotion. And I'm starting to see a pattern. He's always been very practical, very logical. He's the kind of person who analyzes every situation, who weighs the pros and cons. He's not very sentimental, and he doesn't always understand the importance of emotional gestures. For example, when my grandmother passed away, he was supportive, but he didn't really understand why I was so upset. He said, "She lived a long life. It's a natural part of the cycle." It made me feel like he was minimizing my grief. Or when I was struggling with a difficult situation at work, he'd offer practical solutions, but he wouldn't really listen to my feelings. He'd say, "Just quit your job and find a new one." It made me feel like he wasn't really there for me emotionally. Now I'm wondering if these are just personality differences, or if they're signs of a deeper disconnect. I'm also wondering if I'm being too sensitive. Am I making a mountain out of a molehill? Is it really just a ring? Am I overreacting? But then I think about the look on his face when he handed me the ring, the complete lack of understanding, the dismissal of my feelings. And I know deep down that this isn't just about a ring. It's about respect, empathy, and emotional connection. So guys, am I overreacting? Is it really just a ring, a piece of metal and a stone? Or is this a massive red flag, a sign that he doesn't respect my feelings, or see me as an individual? Should I give him another chance? Should I call off the engagement? I'm so confused, hurt, and honestly a little disgusted. Please give me your honest opinions. I am desperate for any kind of insight. Update 1. It's been a weird mix of validation and heartbreak. Validation because so many of you have said I'm not crazy, that my feelings are valid, that this is a huge red flag. Heartbreak because so many of you have shared similar stories, or stories of friends who went through similar situations, and they almost always end badly. The sheer number of people telling me to run, to leave Michael, is staggering. Disrespectful, insensitive, alarming, those words keep popping up in my notifications. Some of you have said I deserve better, that I shouldn't settle for someone who doesn't value my feelings. Some have said I should postpone the wedding, and some have been brutally honest, telling me to just end it. A few of you, though, offered a glimmer of hope. You suggested I try to talk to Michael again, to really explain how deeply hurt I am. You said maybe he's just clueless, not malicious. Maybe he genuinely doesn't understand the emotional weight of his actions. Maybe he's just dense. After reading and rereading your comments, I decided that I owed it to myself and to our relationship to try one more time. I needed to see if there was any chance of salvaging this, any chance of him understanding. I picked up my phone, my hands shaking, and called him. "Michael, I need to see you, I said, my voice tight. He sounded worried. What's wrong? Are you okay? I need to talk to you. Please come over. He was at my door within 15 minutes, looking anxious and contrite. He sat on my couch, his eyes searching mine. I've been reading the comments, I started, my voice trembling. And I need you to understand how much you hurt me. I tried to explain, again, that this wasn't about the money, or even the ring itself. It was about the symbolism. It was about the feeling that I was being compared to Sarah, that I was being given her leftovers. It felt like you were saying I'm not good enough for my own ring, I said, tears welling up in my eyes. Like I'm just a replacement. Like you don't see me as an individual, but just someone to fill a role. I told him how it made me question his feelings for me, how it brought up insecurities I didn't even know I had. I told him how it felt like he was dismissing my feelings, just like he had done in the past. Remember when my grandmother died? I asked, my voice breaking. You said it was a natural part of life, like I was being dramatic. Remember when I was struggling at work, and you just told me to quit? You never really listened to me. Michael, you never really tried to understand. He listened, or at least he appeared to be listening. He apologized, repeatedly. He said he understood why I was upset, but I could tell he still didn't fully grasp the depth of my hurt. He kept saying, "It's just a ring, and I didn't mean it like that." But it's not just a ring, Michael. I cried. It's a symbol. It's a symbol of your past, of your marriage to someone else. It's a reminder that I'm not your first choice, that I'm not the woman you dreamed of marrying. He tried to take my hand, but I pulled away. I love you, he said, his voice pleading. I really do. I wasn't thinking. I was trying to be practical. He tried to explain that he was thinking about our future, about saving money for the house and the wedding. He admitted that he hadn't considered the emotional implications of his actions. I know I can be logical, he said, his voice low. I know I don't always understand emotions, but I love you, and I would never intentionally hurt you. He also admitted that he still had some unresolved feelings about his divorce, about Sarah. He said he was afraid of making the same mistakes again, that he was afraid of being hurt again. I'm scared, he confessed, his voice barely a whisper. I'm scared of failing again. I'm scared of losing you. He offered to buy me a new ring, to let me pick out something that I truly love. He said he wanted to make it right, to show me how much he cared. I told him I needed time to think. I'm still not sure if a new ring will fix the underlying issue. The ring itself isn't the problem. It's what it represents. It's the feeling that he doesn't understand me, that he doesn't value my feelings. I need space, Michael, I said, my voice firm. I need time to process my feelings and decide what I want. He looked devastated. Are you going to break up with me? He asked, his voice trembling. I don't know, I said honestly. I need time to figure things out. He nodded, his eyes filled with pain. Okay, he said quietly. I'll give you space, but please, don't give up on us. He left and I collapsed onto my couch, sobbing. I felt so drained, so emotionally exhausted. I love him. I really do. But I'm not sure if I can get past this. The trust is shaken, and I'm not sure how to rebuild it. I've decided to take some time for myself, to reflect on our relationship, and to figure out what I need. I'm also going to start therapy. I think I need help processing my feelings, and figuring out how to move forward. I need someone to help me untangle this mess of emotions. I spent the rest of the day in a haze. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I just kept replaying the conversation in my head, trying to understand him, trying to understand myself. I'm still so confused and hurt. I keep thinking about the ring, about Sarah, about our future. I'm scared that this is a sign of a deeper problem, a lack of empathy or respect. I'm scared that I'm setting myself up for a lifetime of feeling second best. I'm scared that I'm losing him, but I'm also scared of staying. I'm scared of making the wrong decision, of regretting my choices. Thank you again for all your support. Your comments have been invaluable. I'll keep you guys updated. I need all of you right now. Update 2. Hey everyone. It's been a few weeks since my last update, and honestly, it feels like a lifetime. So much has happened, and yet, I feel like I'm still stuck in this weird, emotional limbo. I wanted to give you all a real, honest update to let you know where things stand. First off, I need to say thank you. Your comments, your stories, Your advice, they've been a lifeline. I've read and reread them, and they've helped me feel less alone. They've also forced me to confront some hard truths about my relationship with Michael. After our last conversation, the one where he offered to buy me a new ring, I needed time. I told him I needed space, and he gave it to me, though he was clearly miserable. He'd call or text every day, just checking in, telling me he was thinking of me, that he loved me. It was sweet, but it also felt desperate. I spent those first few days in a fog. I'd go through the motions of my day, but my mind was always somewhere else, replaying the proposal, the argument, his explanations. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was fundamentally broken. I started noticing little things I'd brushed aside before, like how often he mentioned Sarah, even in passing. It wasn't always negative. Sometimes he'd just bring her up in the context of a story or a memory, but it was there, this constant, subtle reminder of her presence in his life. One night, I was looking through some old photos on my phone, and I stumbled across a picture of Michael and me at a friend's wedding. He was laughing, looking genuinely happy. But then I remembered, that was the night he'd told me about Sarah's wedding, how extravagant it was, how much money they'd spent. He'd compared our friend's wedding to theirs, and at the time, I'd thought it was just him being practical. Now it felt like a red flag. I started to wonder if I was living in her shadow, if I was just a pale imitation of the woman he truly loved. It was a horrible, gnawing feeling, one that I couldn't shake. I decided I needed to talk to him again, to try to understand him better. I invited him over, and we sat on my couch, the same couch where we'd had our last tense conversation. Michael, I started, my voice shaky. I need to understand, why did you use her ring? Really understand. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I told you, I was trying to be practical. It's a good ring, a valuable ring. I thought it would make you happy. But it didn't, I said, my voice rising. It made me feel like I was wearing someone else's hand-me-downs. It made me feel like you were still holding on to her. He looked hurt. I'm not holding on to her, he said, his voice defensive. I love you, I want to marry you. But you used her ring, I repeated, my voice quiet. Why? He hesitated, then looked down at his hands. Okay, fine. There's more to it. He told me that he'd kept the ring in a box, hidden away in his closet. He said he'd looked at it sometimes, thinking about Sarah, about their failed marriage. He said he'd felt guilty about the money he'd spent on it, about the fact that it was just sitting there unused. I thought, he said, his voice barely a whisper, that if I gave it to you it would redeem it, it would give it a new meaning. I stared at him, my mind reeling. Redeem it? I asked, my voice incredulous. You wanted to redeem her ring by giving it to me? He nodded, his eyes filled with shame. I know it sounds crazy, he said, but I thought it would be a way to move on, to let go of the past. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He'd used me, my engagement, as a way to deal with his unresolved feelings about his ex-wife. It was selfish, it was thoughtless, and it was incredibly hurtful. Michael, I said, my voice trembling. You used me. You used our engagement to try to fix your past. That's not love. That's not respect. He looked devastated. I didn't mean to, he said, his voice pleading. I swear, I didn't mean to hurt you. We talked for hours, going over everything. He told me about his fears, his insecurities, his lingering feelings about his divorce. He admitted that he still had some unresolved issues, that he was afraid of making the same mistakes again. I told him about my insecurities, about my fear of being second best, about my need for reassurance. I told him that I needed him to see me, to truly see me, as an individual, not as a replacement. We decided to go ring shopping, to pick out a ring that was just for me. It was a strange experience, filled with mixed emotions. On one hand, it felt like a fresh start, a way to reclaim our engagement. On the other hand, it felt like a band-aid on a gaping wound. I picked out a beautiful sapphire ring, with small diamonds surrounding it. It was simple, elegant, and it felt like it was mine. But even with the new ring, the trust was still shaky. I found myself questioning his motives, wondering if he was truly trying to change, or if he was just saying what I wanted to hear. I also found myself thinking about Sarah, more than I ever had before. I wanted to know everything about her, about their relationship, about what had gone wrong. I wanted to understand what he saw in her, what he missed. I started asking him questions, probing for details. He was hesitant at first, but eventually he opened up. He told me about their whirlwind romance, their extravagant wedding, their short-lived marriage. He told me about her infidelity, about the betrayal he felt. But even as he talked, I felt a sense of unease. It was like he was still carrying a torch for her, like he was still trying to justify his actions. I realized that Sarah wasn't just a ghost in our relationship. She was a constant nagging presence. She was the standard against which I was being measured, the woman I couldn't compete with. I started to pull away, to create distance between us. I needed time to process my feelings, to figure out what I wanted. We'd been planning on getting married in 6 months, but I told him I needed more time. I explained that I needed to work on myself, that I needed to rebuild my trust in him. He was disappointed, but he agreed. I've been spending more time with my friends and family. They've been incredibly supportive, and it's been good to have people around me who love me unconditionally. I've also been doing a lot of soul searching. I've been thinking about what I want in a relationship, what I need to feel loved and secure. I've been thinking about my own insecurities, my own fears. I'm still not sure if we'll make it. I love him, but I'm not sure if I can fully trust him again. I'm taking it day by day, focusing on myself and my healing. The question still hangs in the air though. Can we rebuild? Can we create something new? Something that isn't tainted by the past? Or are we doomed to repeat the same mistakes? To live in the shadow of Sarah? I don't know. I'm scared, I'm confused, and I'm trying to figure it out. Thank you for listening. Update 3. Hey everyone, it's me again. I wanted to give you all a final update, a proper ending to this whole roller coaster ride. I know a lot of you have been invested in my story, and I really appreciate you sticking with me. To be honest, the weeks and months after my last update were messy. There were good days, sure. Days where Michael and I tried to pretend everything was normal. We went on dates, we talked, we even laughed. But underneath it all, there was this constant nagging feeling that things weren't right. It was like we were trying to rebuild a house on shaky ground. I kept finding myself second-guessing everything. Every word he said, every gesture he made. I'd analyze it, searching for hidden meanings, for signs that he was still holding on to the past. It wasn't healthy, for either of us. I was living in a constant state of anxiety, and he was walking on eggshells trying to prove himself. One night, it hit me. We were having a quiet dinner, just the two of us, and he mentioned Sarah in a casual, almost offhand way. And it wasn't even a big deal, just a little anecdote. But that tiny mention, that little echo of his past, made me realize I couldn't keep living like this. I told him I needed space, not a temporary break, but real, honest-to-goodness space. I needed to figure out who I was without him, without the constant weight of his past hanging over us. He didn't fight me. He looked sad, but he understood. He said he'd been trying to move on, but maybe he hadn't done it properly. Maybe he still had some things to work through. We didn't break up officially, but we drifted apart. We stopped calling and texting every day. We stopped trying to force things. Those next few months were challenging. There were days when I missed him terribly, when I questioned my decision. But I also discovered a strength I didn't know I had. I started doing things for myself again. I reconnected with old friends. I took up new hobbies. I just focused on rediscovering who I was. I learned that I had been so focused on making our relationship work, on fitting into his life, that I had lost sight of my own needs. I had forgotten what made me happy, what made me feel fulfilled. And I realized that I deserved to be with someone who saw me, truly saw me, as an individual. Someone who valued my feelings, who respected my boundaries, who made me feel like I was enough. I realized I was enough on my own. A few months later, Michael and I met for coffee. It was a casual, friendly meeting, not a date. We talked about how we were doing, about our lives, about our plans. He seemed different, more at peace. He said he'd been doing a lot of thinking, and that he understood why I needed space. He'd learned a lot about himself. We hugged goodbye, and I walked away feeling relieved. Not happy exactly, but relieved. Like a weight had been lifted. I'm still single, and I'm okay with that. I'm learning to build a life that's fulfilling on my own terms. I'm learning to trust my gut, to listen to my intuition. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm no longer afraid of it. I'm focusing on the present, on building a life I love. Thank you all for your support. You helped me through a really tough time. My biggest lesson: know your worth, don't settle, and learn to love yourself first. If you felt this story, or if you've been through something similar with relationships, please hit like and subscribe for more stories. We'd love to hear what you think. Comment below with your own thoughts on this journey, or any advice you'd give to someone going through something like this.